Alright, hopefully this is the last dishwasher video I got. Today I'm going to be replacing the high pressure hose and some of the clamps. I've already turned off the power to the dishwasher, turned off the water, removed the front kick plate and the two screws that hold the dishwasher to the cabinet, and then obviously pulled it forward and then tipped over the dishwasher. So I got the factory clamp because I was sold an improper clamp before and I just used it anyway, hoping that it wouldn't leak. It didn't, but I got the real one now, so I'm going to put that one on. And then I'm going to replace the high pressure hose, which comes off the pump and then feeds into the sprayer arms. You can see it's also got the wrong clamp on it, and that's why I'm replacing it. Because when I put that clamp on, it did do some damage to it. So I just bought the high pressure hose that also comes with the two clamps with it. Otherwise, the clamps cost $14 each, or you can get the hose and clamps for $50, so I just got the hose with both clamps. But for the suction line, I just got the one $14 clamp. And I'll show you why here. There's a notable size difference. So the small one is the real clamp, and the slightly larger one is the clamp that they sell everywhere. I don't know if you can find this smaller clamp. I think it's a proprietary thing, but it fits into a bit of a recess in the suction hose, and the other clamp is too big, so it doesn't fit into the recess properly. So I figured I'd buy the exorbitantly expensive clamp and put it in place. So you can see it there, and then you can see the two lumps that it sort of sits in between, and that is why you have to pay $14 for that clamp. So I'm going to take off the hose clamp on the high pressure side. And like I said, the pressure hose also comes with its own clamps as well, so you don't need to buy those separately. Now, this is a bit of a pain to get off. It comes with a factory clamp on there, and to get these off, I just use a flathead screwdriver and sort of give it a twist, and eventually it'll pop off. I didn't find you had to remove the piece in front of the clamp. There's enough clearance to get that clamp off and to get the new hose clamp on top of the hose. What I did find useful is pulling the pump forward. So to get the hose off, it's not too bad. Obviously, it just slides down off the one coupling. And you can see the little bit of damage I did to the hose there with the oversized clamp. So basically when you put the clamp down, it's too big, and then that ribbed piece goes through the little gaps there and cuts it up. Generally speaking, it was easy to get the hose off the pump, but putting it on is a little bit more difficult. So all I did was remove the pump from the rubber bushings at the rear of the dishwasher. I didn't disconnect anything else, and then just with the pump out of the way, I slid one end of the hose on, obviously with the hose clamp in place. And when you're putting the hoses on, you need to make sure that they're fully seated on the piece that you're putting it on. You don't want it to be sitting in an angle or to have it just barely hanging on the fitting. I found you have to sort of lay on your back, feel around with your finger and that sort of thing, so that you can ensure that it's fully seated. Then obviously once it was fully seated, I just tightened down the hose clamp. Now before I put the pump back in place, I do put the hose clamp on first, obviously, and that way I can make sure that it's fully seated and in place when I'm putting the motor in. And you can see that the motor is on the anti-vibration bushing. I'm going to get this end of the high pressure hose onto the motor. It was a little bit more painful, it's a little bit tight, and you got to sort of work it with your fingers over a bit of time. But you can see that it is now fully seated as far as the high pressure hose can go onto the actual pump itself. Not a lot of space to get the screwdrivers and stuff in to tighten these hose clamps, but it's not too bad. One thing you got to make sure is that as the hose clamp sort of moves around, that it doesn't hit a piece of plastic. I found you have to sort of push it down with your finger in order to keep it moving effectively. And there you go, high pressure hose is on properly with the correct hose clamps, and now my suction hose also has the correct hose clamp. So just before I flip it back over, make sure everything's looking like it's properly seated, and all these ones are good and they're nice and tight, so they should not leak. And the anti-vibration bushing for the motor looks like it's in a good position, no issues with that. And generally speaking, that's all that you really need to do. There's one strap that holds the discharge line on, and that one's fine as well. So need to flip the dishwasher back over, turn on the power, and very carefully push it back in place and try to keep the sound deadening material on the dishwasher properly. Reconnect the discharge line, turn on the water, screw the dishwasher to the cabinet, and everything works well. I do run it with the kick plate off for 2 loads, make sure it's not leaking, and then I put the kick plate on. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.